Well, hello, good people. Mark Holmes here, and as always, I appreciate each and every one of you guys. I am here in Waynesboro, Virginia, in front of the red brick house that 8 years ago, it became my burden and my pleasure with my wife and my family, the opportunity of saving this great house. See, it was 204 years ago that Mary Beverly ended up selling the land that the house is built on to William Brown. And he built this as the first schoolhouse in the city of Waynesboro. This house has gone through a lot of history, a lot of changes, a lot of different owners and everything else. And unfortunately, in 2016, it was scheduled to be destroyed. And that's where we stepped in and we were able to get it from the city of Waynesboro and rebuild it and bring it back to the glory. And I want to take you guys inside where we're pretty close to actually finishing this. But before I do, I want to tell you about something that is really, really important to me. The incredible thing about this house is it's lived from so many families, so many generations, and passed through so many hands. I'm going to be part of that chain at some point when I'm overtaking my own dirt nap. But I want to make sure that this house is here forever. We put into the covenants when we got the house that the house can never be taken down. It can only come down by an act of Mother Nature, and I have done everything in my power to make sure that it's here for another 200 years. And what we're planning here is trying to get this house registered as a historical house. This house originally, schoolhouse. It was here when Basic City and Waynesboro became joined. It was here before the Afton Mountain Tunnel, which came in the 1850s. It was here during the Civil War where it was used as a hospital. It was the Lee Masonic Lodge. It was the town's blacksmith and many, many, many other things that happened here. What we want to do is get this house registered. And a way you can help and you can be part of the permanence of this house is we're going to build a walkway, a brick walkway that's going to start out from the porch and carry all the way through here. But not just any brick walkway. This is going to be a timeline starting from the 1810s, because it was 1819 when the house was sold, all the way to today. And on that, we're going to have pavers that have the decade with significant events that happened there, as well as people who want to be part of this to help us raise the money to get this house registered. You can have a customized brick added to the brick walkway. It's your company. Ace Hardware, we've talked to them. They want to put one in here because they were an integral part of helping us, because I literally walked to Ace Hardware every time I needed something, as well as some other businesses. There's families, members who have lived in this house that are also getting their names and stuff added to the walkway. And with this house being here, hopefully, as long as we're all here and beyond, your name and your support will be part of making sure that this becomes a part in the natural history books. So come on, let's go in, let's take a look. And a couple of things I want to point out. When you look at the facade here, some of you guys have seen the original pictures of 2013 when they first started the campaign to save this, and 2016 when we got it. Almost all of this wood up here is the original wood from when those pictures were taken. These posts are the original posts. We had to do a lot of work on them. I had to rebuild and add on to the post over here. I had to make new feet for the columns. But these posts are antique heart pine posts that were made somewhere around the 1890s. That's as far as we can actually date it. The roofs, those are all the same roofs that were here for quite a long time. And of course, we've had to go through and take care of repairing the bricks. The bricks are from where we used to fix the house, from a friend of mine who's no longer with us, Alex, who was a great mentor of mine, from his house in Culpeper that was built in the 1830s. The shutters are actually working shutters. Let me take the camera here. The shutters here are actually working shutters where from Legacy Lumber downtown, reclaimed lumber that we actually got to rebuild these. The latches here we found at a local antique store, and so the shutters are actually working shutters, and if we didn't have the plants in there, we could close those up. Of course, we added the porch swing, but all of this wood is original. Now, some of the pickets were missing and broken, and so what we actually did is, believe it or not, we actually turned ones to match the original ones. That's one that I turned. I think that's an original one, to give it the same look that it would have originally had. The front door, well, the original front door was destroyed, but this one I made 8 years ago out of wood that I found in the basement. The stairs, hardly touched, other than painting and sanding out the original wood from it. The living room here, original floors. We believe there was a potbelly stove at one point, and it burned the original flooring. But all of this was pieced in later on, are the original floors from 204 years ago. Now, I'm fortunate because my parents, my wife's family and things, they've donated a lot of different pieces, like the drop tables, the antique desk, and so on. Heritage Museum donated some history books, as well as the great map of Waynesboro. The red brick house is, I gotta follow the train tracks, right here. Up in here is where the red brick house would be. And if you've ever heard of P. Buckley Moss, famous artist, 92 years old, P. Buckley painted this to help raise money to try and help save the house. And we'll be seeing her in less than 2 weeks, and she said she'd like to paint the house again. And if we can get that done, that would be incredible. We had to replaster the walls because a lot of the bricks were showing. There were cracks throughout. The ceiling we sanded out and repainted, but all of this woodwork and stuff in here is original. And when you see these door frames, all of this was sanded out and stripped by my wife and repainted. This is the original woodwork that was in here. And I challenge you to find a board this wide at your lumber supply place and put it against some brick and think that it's going to stay that true and flat. So here we go. All right, so we're in the kitchen here, and the story behind the kitchen, of course, unfortunately, we had to get the zoning changed from highway commercial to local business in order for this to become a residence or something other than being a commercial business. The problem we had for about 6 years of getting this changed was, as a highway commercial, what that means is you're off of a main street where you have to have room for somebody to pull off, park, and be able to turn around and exit. One parking space for every 400 square feet. And unfortunately, that would be 4 parking space minimum. They actually wanted 5, and there's not enough property here to be able to do that. And so we literally were stuck for 6 years, unable to work on this. During that time, in that process, the roof leaked really bad in here, and it ended up rotting out the floor. Some of you may have seen the video where my son literally stepped through the floor right here, and the damage was too far gone for us to keep it the way it was. Now, it was kind of a blessing in disguise, because what we believe happened was, once the red brick house was built, this was actually the back porch. Because the way this side was done versus that side, you can see that the stonework and the foundation were much older than where it is on that side. And so we ended up not being able to save all of the original walls. This wall over here was original, but we had to redo the roof line and we had to redo the floor. But because we are so cognizant of the value of the work and stuff that was done, you're actually looking at right here. This, my friends, is the floor joists and lumber from what used to hold up the floor. For me, knowing that for all the time that this was built, that this was underground and never seen, the best way to honor this was actually being able to make this into the countertop and into the island, which is literally the nerve center. All of the wood that you see on this island is all reclaimed lumber from this house. and it is about 7.5 feet long and almost 4 feet wide. The nice thing is our stools fit right here, and this is really the place that we are in constantly. We of course put the hood and the exhaust fan, so we married the old with the new, but we wanted to have this to feel like an older kitchen. We built all the cabinetry and everything in here. The wood countertops, of course, are not antique hard pine. That is actually new materials. But we married, or at least we like to feel like we married old and new. And in here, as a montage, everywhere there's brick inside, between the old and the new part of the house, we kept the brick. So you see this is all 204-year-old bricks that were handmade right behind here. Now, I've been blessed because I was talking about a lot of old pieces that we have. This is a piece from my mother who belonged to one of my ancestors where their house used to be a farm, and my great-great-grandmother used to sell chickens. So that piece is up in here, as well as a lot of other pieces, some of the old mason jars, old milk bottles, and we've actually met the milkman who used to deliver here. And this is another piece that one of my ancestors who was a slave, cast iron, waffle iron that was used over a fire. And look at the card suits that are in here. And so with us getting that cast iron stove, we're going to be doing some waffles on here. We're going to cure this thing and get this together. On this part of the house, we weren't able to save the windows, so we ended up doing new windows, of course, through here, because we didn't have a choice. Now, the bathroom, exact same location that it was before. The difference is we added a shower, and we took the bathtub, which used to be over there, and we put it over here, so that way we could add this window, have lots of natural lighting and things in here, and keep it with this older style of a look with the subway tiles and such in here. We also went through and we reclaimed more of the lumber. This is more of our reclaimed floor joists and things. And these are some antique heart pine floor joists from a Sears kit house around the corner from here. But definitely a different look. And this door right here going to the screened-in porch where we're still working right now is an original door, sanded out, repainted. Some of the doors we ended up having to make. This is one that I made, and this is one that I made to be in that same style as the old house. Over here, we believe that after that was enclosed, this of course was enclosed and was the dining room, and this was the cabinet that was built in. What you'll notice is up here, you'll see the header up in here. So we believe that this was actually, before they added this addition on here, was the exit to the back part of the house. So that was the doorway. Instead of just closing it up, they made it usable. And again, another one of the doors that were in here. You can see this was probably a window at one point, and the same thing with our lintel, wood lintel that they actually stuck in there, which is kind of crazy. Now we believe this room, because this door is an original door, this is a lot older door, of course, than when you look at these kinds of doors. We believe that this was actually the original door, but it used to swing in that way. So what we believe is the staircase was built later on. When we look at the floor from upstairs, you can see where the floor was cut, and we believe the stairs were actually over a little bit more, and we believe that this would have been the schoolmaster's room, and this was one of the doors to get in. The reason why we also say that is, when you look over here, you can see where this was filled in, and this would have needed to be filled in because that's where the steps are. So those would have been the two doorways for this room. Now, we decided to build bookcases, and with the bookcases we've started a collection of antique tools that are in here. Of course, I've just got these a couple of days ago, but some of these were donated by the Waynesboro Historic Commission, David Geiger, He ended up giving me some of the planes and things in here. Some of these are from our friends, from Judy. Oh boy, I can't remember her last name right now. Judy, whose parents, her grandparents, were actually living in here. So it's possible that some of these were actually used here in the house. We ended up taking the plaster off of this one. We are not using this as a regular fireplace. It is an electric fireplace because we don't want to risk burning this down. But we have so many pieces that are old pieces that we want people to feel like they're in an old home. One other thing that's interesting to me is when we first started working on this wall, it had a lot of paint that was peeling on it. And so I started sanding it out, and you could start to see the different colors in the wall from all of the paint colors that were put on over the years. And I started to actually fall in love with that. So we got rid of all the loose paint, and then we actually varnished it over with a clear coat, so that way you have the, I guess, the colors of all of the different time periods and so on that were here. When we got here, it was actually covered with wallpaper that was peeling. But again, we had to replaster all the walls. There was a lot of damage over here because there was a roof leak on this side. But getting the plaster and getting the molding and the trim and stuff back in here, the evenings with the sun setting over there is just magical, for me at least. And I think the look of this, I think it kind of fits the place. Let's take a look at the upstairs. When we first got the place, there was actually a wall over here, so we had to replicate the railings and the post here to match this side. In fact, this was only a half post, so we actually had to rebuild the other half of it. Made these out of mahogany to try and match as close as possible as we could. We took down the ceiling, and this is just the natural lighting in here. When we took down the ceiling and the old plaster and lath, we left the nails in here, but we looked at these beams and we loved them. To know that these are 200 years plus old and taking about 300 years of growth to get there, we decided to keep those, and we added the pine beadboard on top. We ended up putting in the recessed lighting, which illuminates real well with the walls. We had to replaster the walls. My wife, of course, stripped all of the windows, and these are actually the original windows from the house with the window weights still working in here. Fireplace technology changed, and this is actually a coal burning fireplace here. We replastered it and so forth. The plaster was falling off of the brick, and we decided to keep it open to reveal how it actually looked, the handmade bricks. And you can see that these are a softer brick, and you can see the lime mortar with the chunks of lime and stuff in there. But we ended up creating a kind of a crown molding over here because we ended up having the plaster was crumbling in places and sealing it back up. We hid the heating and air conditioning. We have a unit that's in the attic, so you only see the registers here, and a unit that's in the basement, so that way you're not seeing any ductwork. So it still feels like it's an old house, but you don't see the ductwork. My wife, of course, loves her plants, and we're turning this place into a jungle bit by bit. We ended up building more bookcases over here on this side. As you can see, plants are beginning to go in here, and this is my studio for my sports blogging. And this is, all of the mantelpieces are all the original mantles that were here, exception of the one that's in the front room. The one that's in the front room is actually married up with a mantle that used to be in the dining room. There was a mantle on the wall. There was a chimney behind it, but there was a mantle there. So we ended up taking that mantle down, and we used those pieces to make the legs for the other one. There also, for anybody who may have been in this house before, there used to be a wall here that was made out of antique heart pine with a door here. So I'm assuming that this was a bedroom, that was a bedroom, but there was also another door right here going into this room. So let's go take a look. We ended up taking out the chimney because it was crumbling, which actually gave us a little bit more room. And it was 2 closets on each side of this. Now, this was an addition put onto the house. You can see how the floorboards, which we had a lot of damage in here, but we were fortunate enough to find some of the original floorboards and be able to fix it and to get rid of the grate that was in the floor. So we created this space. Now, the pass-through, the doorway, we kept the original door. We actually made that a closet. And, of course, we kept the brickwork in here as well. Made this a walk-in closet, and we added one more bathroom in here. It's a little tight, but it is a cozy bathroom. It is cozy, and so on. So if you've ridden by the red brick house and you wondered, what did they do with the place? Well, here you have it. And we know that we won't be here forever. And I'm hoping that this house will be here for many, many generations to come. And if you are interested in being part of the brick campaign, you can email me, cowboysmark94@gmail.com, and I'll put the link in here. I look at that as, one, a way of taking another step for future generations to understand the importance of a place like this, and 2, how you can be part of that permanence and helping to make sure that this place lives on forever. And I appreciate you guys, and I hope you enjoyed the tour of the red brick house.